So there's a shift from the working classes to the Republicans, but can the Republicans and Trump keep up their end of the bargain and deliver for those voters? I mean, there have been some Republicans who have made overt overtures to working class voters. Do you see that kind of theme being taken up by the Trump administration as it's taking shape?
Well, there are mixed signals. So, for example, on the border, if you do deter illegal immigration and you do deport some people, I mean, there will probably not going to be a whole lot, but it will have a deterrent effect. That will cause tighter labor markets at the bottom, and that will help workers to some extent. And he's reached out to organize labor by inviting the head of the Teamsters to address the Republican convention by appointing a fairly pro-labor Republican as Secretary of Labor. Having said that, he's also stocking his cabinet with billionaires who are essentially libertarians.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the Trump coalition, it's a combination of working class populists and elite libertarians. And that has been the case with the Republicans since the 1970s, true Nixon, true Reagan. The libertarians usually win the policy battles. And so what you get is this, what I think of as culture war libertarianism, where you run in elections on opposing political correctness in the old days, wokeness now, and that unites the populists and libertarians because they both resent wokeness. But then in between, it's pro-employer, sometimes anti-labor policies.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then the Democrats will have an opening in the midterms and in 2028. And it is kind of alarming from a Republican point of view that already you have every day there's some report of some Republican saying, well, this Department of Government Efficiency really needs to include cuts in Social Security and Medicare.
This is Musk's department.
Right.
Yeah.
Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. And the Democrats have their advertisement that they used against an earlier round of proposed cuts for Social Security, of rolling grandma in her wheelchair off the cliff.
Yeah.
Trump was very smart in the 2016 primaries, when he was running the first time. He pointed to the other Republican candidates and he said, all of these guys want to cut your Social Security and Medicare. I won't do that. And he didn't do it. But you see the same tension in Western Europe. So Nigel Farage, for example, is very populist culturally, but in his background, he's kind of a free marketeer.
Yeah.
And the AfD in Germany was started by anti-European libertarians, but it's attracted voters who are not libertarian on economics. They like the welfare state. They like social insurance. They like unions in many cases. They're just opposed to mass immigration and to the cultural left. So that's a tension in all of these populist movements.
I think that there's also another tension I see building where perhaps less so inside the tent of the Republican Party, but certainly on the right in recent years, we've seen a rise in conspiracy theories, conspiratorialism, even figures, someone like Tucker Carlson, who maybe a few years ago we might have put into this more workerist blend, has become openly espousing conspiracy theories. Is there also a danger in that does Trump need to shed some of the crankishness around his movement?
Every movement does, whether it's the mainstream center left or the mainstream center right. The William F. Buckley Jr. Had to spend much of his career from the 1950s until the 1990s keeping anti-Semites and racists from infiltrating the mainstream conservatism of his day. So you have to have bouncers at the door. Otherwise, and there's a danger of entryists, to use the Trotskyist term. These are people who disguise their views until they reach a critical mass within a movement. And then they've taken over the institution. So I think there is a problem. Particularly, there's a problem with what I call the eugenicons.
Yeah,
it's just old-fashioned social Darwinism. That successful people are genetically superior, And working class people, since they're not rich, they must be subhuman and stupid, right? And now, obviously, this is politically fatal for any party in a democracy.
Telling your voters that
since most voters vote for us, subhuman, morons. But these people have like Richard Hanania, they have a big following on the online right among young Republicans. And so you just have to constantly have kind of an autoimmune system, right, to prevent the crazies from infiltrating your mainstream political party.
And as you said, there's crazies on all sides. We talked a bit about the transgender issue and the Democrats. Do you think the Democrats are getting the message on some of these, particularly culture war issues, that voters don't like this, that there needs to be a change in the Democratic Party? Or do you think it will just revert to normal, be one more heave, let's watch Trump fail? What do you see as the most likely?
I think they're in denial. I think it will be one more heave, to use the old Labour term from the UK, or two or three. A friend of mine has a theory that an American political party has to lose the White House 3 times in a row before they really reconsider. And it's kind of disheartening to look at the postmortems from the election by Democrats, where the few like Seth Moulton from Massachusetts, who have come out and he's voted for pro-transgender legislation, but he says, I don't want biological males on a female sports team. These politicians, the few who've said that, are threatened with primary challenges, denounced by their colleagues. And so I think the consensus among Democratic operatives and strategists is we don't have to change any of our policies. We just need better media. We need a Joe Rogan of the left, right? And this was the same denial that they had in the Reagan era. They said, our policies are really popular. It's just that he's the great communicator. He's an actor. He's good on TV. And then in the 90s and 2000s, it was Fox. It was the Rupert Murdoch media empire. So we'll create Rachel Maddow and MSNBC as the left-wing version of Fox. And the problem is, it's actually the policies. It's not how they're packaged. If you explain them better to the American people, including the multiracial working class, they will reject them even more, right? And there's a reason why progressives use euphemisms, like gender-affirming care for surgical mutilation of teenagers, young boys and girls. Because if you actually said surgical mutilation and pumping them full of hormones, people would be horrified. Affirmative action sounds nice. It's anti-white and anti-Asian racial discrimination. So it's not just a matter of messaging; it's a matter of deception, really. If you think about it, using euphemisms.